Hey guys, Alex here, ajnashville.com, here with our co-host, Mr. Greg Pease. Welcome.
I am always excited to be here, and we have a unique topic today. Generally, we bring always the goal is to add value. When you
Right.
guys get done listening to this podcast, we want you to walk away empowered, inspired, and generally speaking, with a call to action to add value to your life.
Yeah.
And a lot of what we talk about is how you interact with, deal with, and connect with other people. But today we want to talk a little bit about how you deal with, interact with, and connect with yourself.
Yeah. I mean, that's huge. You just nailed it, And that's the thing is we like to bring things like mental awareness, self-awareness, things like that. But one thing that is commonly dodged, this is something, and I'm glad this is a piece of awareness for the veteran community is PTSD. But the one thing that I don't think we acknowledge as a society so much is the PTSD that civilians experience. That
Right.
your average Joe or Jane walking down the street, experiences on a day-to-day that may be stemmed from something that happened in childhood, something that may have happened a year ago, yesterday, whatever it may be. So this podcast today, we're going to focus a little more in on that. What's up?
Oh, no, you see me chomping at the
I
bit over
saw-
here.
I
Huh?
was
I was
like-
like, oh, dude, I was loving what you were saying.
Yeah.
And realizing that. Even think about on the veteran front. There is begun to be awareness around veteran PTSD or wartime PTSD. There has begun to be. Now we need a lot more awareness. We need to keep
Right.
pushing that topic, that
Right.
subject, and gaining health. But think about the Vietnam vets.
Mhm.
They weren't even afforded the opportunity to discuss that it was real.
Right.
And that's where we want to, that's where we want to kind of talk about today. The main focal point in that is around civilian PTSD, and I use the word civilian, but just life PTSD, because while we have begun as a society, we have begun to realize that mental health is a real thing. Because you look back, like when we were kids, like you just get over it.
Yeah.
And
Rub some dirt on it.
I mean, for real, you just get over it. Now, I don't want to create a victim mentality or a victim mindset for you. I really want you to be empowered to be a leader. But it's important to note that mental health is important, and I would wager that every person listening to this has had trauma in their past.
Yeah.
Are you identifying it?
Right, right. No, and that's the biggest thing. I mean, we're not saying, hey, you have PTSD, go ahead and just shy away from that and be okay with not doing that activity. What we're promoting here is the fact that you have the ability to identify what is stemming some of your fears or subconscious actions that are creating maybe obstacles in your day-to-day life, or maybe relationships, or maybe your professional career, or whatever it may be. I mean, let's face it, like you said, we all have that form of PTSD to whatever degree that may be. I'll give you my example. I had a motorcycle wreck. Okay, part of that wreck was I was going left. I was in a left-hand curve, and I slid across and broke both my legs. All right, and PTSD never occurred to me prior to that. But I was talking to the doctor one day, and he said, riding motorcycles will probably create this PTSD for you because of your accident, because it was such a traumatic event. And my first thought was, I can't have PTSD. That's wartime veterans. Those are the guys that have
Right,
PTSD. So
right.
automatically I discounted his thought process.
Separated like it wouldn't even be me.
Right. I'm like, because, dude, I wasn't at war. I was on a motorcycle.
And in that moment, and I want to hear the rest of your story, but in that moment, you actually you took away the ability to be able to even process a crate. Like, listen, man, how many of us listening today
Right.
broke both legs before? I have not.
Right. Right.
And so when that happened, you already took away the ability to even process how huge that was.
Yeah.
But keep going though.
No, and that's the thing. So he warned me of that. And then I did notice, like, after the fact, like, left-handed turns were really, there was a lot of fear taking left-handed turns, because there was always a thought process in the back of my mind that, what if my tires fail? What if they slip? What if they slide? Because that's essentially what happened. Is I was on cold tires. The cold tires didn't grip, and so they slid, And even driving a car, there's some of that, you get into a turn and you feel a little bit of a slide or something like that going on. There's an instant kind of freeze up and a fear there. And being able to identify what that stems from is what helps me recognize that, hey, this is why this exists. This is what I can do about it, and here's where I need to put my trust back into. And I use that as what I consider a light, comparison to some deeper things, like being abused as a child, being starved, having that fear. So there's a PTSD that I have on a regular basis. I was starved as a child. I was locked in a room and I've got rotten food and everything else as here's your food. You're going to be in there for 3 days. You can have a rotten tuna sandwich, which I hated tuna. I still do to this day. That's probably part of my PTSD, right?
Yeah.
I won't even touch it. But to now, we're like, we start running low on something. I go to Sam's Club and stock up on everything. I have to have
Freaked
extra
out, yeah.
things. Yeah, and it does on a day-to-day, on a weekly basis. If I open up that cabinet and it appears to be empty, I'm like, oh, shoot, we got to go to the store. We got to get this. We got to get this. And it's something that is triggered by that not having it as a kid
Yeah.
and now being able to have it as an adult, but making sure my kids don't have the same thing. So
And being able to identify it allows you the ability to control it as needed. I didn't say to eliminate it, but just to be in control. Because I have this belief that for everyone that has experienced or is experiencing PTSD, and I have had I've had brutal PTSD in my life, and anybody that's been on the episode for more than 2 or 3 has already heard a little bit of it. I don't want to waste too much time with the backstory, but I believe that we don't. So I would say I've overcome PTSD, but I believe that PTSD, these are just my words, that we have these demons that we fight.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't believe that we ever totally defeat them. I don't believe that they're ever gone, but that we become stronger than them. And then we dominate them. We have total control over them. I believe that they're always there because they're part of you. You lived the experiences. You don't erase the experience, but you become back in control of it just like you are now through what you explained.
Right. Well, and it's part of our makeup. So here's the thing. Like, I dislike it when people are like, oh my God, I'm so sorry you went through that. Like, good. I'm glad I went through it. Not to steal a word out of Jocko's book, but, good. Like, I'm glad I did because I had the strength to go through it. I have now the strength to identify it, and I have the strength to work through it. But like you said, it's something that in the back of my mind from time to time, it'll pop up, and I'll think about it. But it doesn't take me to an emotional place in life like it used to.
Right.
I used to be very immature at one point emotionally. And when I say immature, I'm not talking about acting like a kid. I'm talking about not being able to identify trigger points. And certain words would trigger a reaction out of me, and I had to learn to control my anger and learn that those words are superficial in the grand scheme of things. Like, yes, this was a word that my I don't even know. I don't want to throw them out there, but this is a word that I was called as a child continuously, and it was used as a method of putting me down and making me feel small. And then in my adult life, if that word was used towards me, I would react. It was anger, The anger probably stemmed from hurt, but it was a reaction. The quick reaction to hurt or pain is typically anger.
Yep.
Now into the later years of my adult life, it's like, okay, yeah, cool, dude. Nice word. Good to go,
Right,
So,
you fit one, and you became stronger than it. Have you ever heard that saying? I don't know who said it, but there's 2 wolves inside of us.
Mhm.
One is good and one is evil.
Yeah.
And they're both fighting, and then which one wins is whichever one you feed more.
Right.
And that's powerful. Like,
It is.
that's the raw root of handling your PTSD. That is the raw root. Whichever wolf you feed, the demon or the good wolf, right? Whichever one you feed will have more energy, will grow bigger, and will dominate the other one. That will be the one that wins.
100%.
Feed the good wolf. You have to. I mean, identifying that it's there is important.
Yeah.
Or you can't even begin to control it, and that's important to note too when we talk about identifying that it's there. I want you guys to know that I'm not asking you to disclose to anyone the things that happen to you.
Right.
But you need to be comfortable in your own skin with what happened to you. And I understand that some of those things were horrible.
Mm-hmm.
You are not to blame for the things that happened to you.
Right.
I mean, it took me a long time to be able to say this. I mean, and I'm saying this like, and I hope this empowers you. I hope this frees you. I have been forced to eat dog feces, human feces, drink urine. I have drank out of toilets. I've consumed more vomit than I care to even remember.
Right.
That is not who I am. That is what happened to me. And I only share that to help empower you. You don't need to tell other people the horrible things that happened to you, but you don't have to be so embarrassed that you can't even visit them yourself.
Right. Well, and a big thing that ties into that. So when you recognized, hey, that this individual that did this to me was a they were going through their own struggles, their own fights, their own demons. They didn't have control of the demons, so they were the only way to process what it was they were going through is to make you do the same things, or similar things, or put you
Right.
through some type of pain that was similar to the pain they may have been going through. But the fact is, as an adult, because you're able to identify that, your children do not experience that.
Right.
It's not like you go home and you say, "Hey guys, guess what? Boom, do this."
Right.
And that's where that identification of those issues and the stem and the root and understanding that this person was ill to some degree. Now, I'm not justifying and I'm not in a situation to analyze every individual that's put someone else through trauma to say what their issue was, because I'm not. That's just not me.
But I definitely can speak for my stepmother was my aggressor, and she most certainly needed help that she never got.
Right.
She
right.
most certainly needed help that she never got. And if I would have never got, I mean, I don't recommend this for anyone else, but I took a self journey. It took me 10 years. You can do it in a lot less if you don't do it by yourself. But if I did not seek this development journey that I went on, I would do the same thing, and I would be in the same position that she is in. I would need help that I wasn't receiving, and I would be then passing that on to my kids.
Right.
But I understand that while it is not acceptance of it is not okay what happened to me, I also understand how horrible is it to live in that place where you need that help and don't get it.
Right. Or worse off, to live in the place of the victim without, you're caged.
Yeah.
The thing is as a victim myself, you're caged and you're locked into this mental thought. And I hope nobody finds out. Like, I remember
Right.
being young and being like, I hope nobody ever finds out that I was molested, because that people are going to think I'm gay because I was molested by a dude. And, like, my thought process behind it was like, oh my God, I can't let the secret out of the bag,
Correct.
And then as I get older, it's like, hey, I didn't have a choice. Like, this wasn't something I chose. It wasn't something that I did. It was something that was forced upon me by somebody that needed some mental help, and hopefully that person at this day, for the sake of society, has received whatever help they need to stop, that action. But I don't know,
Go ahead.
It's not in my follow-up to say, hey, dude, how you doing? But the last I knew, so this guy was active duty Air Force, and so he's I'm assuming in some prison cell somewhere in a place that most people don't want to be. But see, I don't have PTSD against veterans or active duty people because of that action, because I understood that this was an individual, not a whole class of people, And so identifying some of those things is important just in your day-to-day operation.
And just as some of you know this, depending on how far you are on your journey, and some of you just don't know that it's real yet. And I just want to share it with you so that you can know. Every single one of you that has, so we just sparked up a lot of memory for anyone listen today. Like, you can't tell me that you didn't go to a place already,
Right.
mentally,
Right.
like it happened. I get it, right? And I love you. I'm with you. I'm there with you. Your darkest moments, if you haven't yet, there's a gift that you'll receive from each one of them. That thought came about when Alex, when you were saying, "Hey, good. Now I have these strengths from what I went through." As you process, when you're prepared, when the time is right, when you process your PTSD, there's a gift on the other side for you. And once you harness it, then you just go out and share it with everyone.
Right. Well, and that's the big thing is becoming an advocate for others. At the end of the day, like I said this mission when I started my podcast, and this was back, heck, three, maybe 4 years ago now. All I want to do is help one person. And through everything I went through, I believe that I possess something to help an individual potentially get through whatever hard times they're getting through, whether it's the fact that they're broken, whatever that looked like, and through the years, I've been fortunate to have the reward of people reaching out and saying, hey man, you helped me, and here's how.
That's awesome.
And that's a big thing. Like, that reinforces what it is we do. But the fact of the matter is, I'm able to do that because I experienced what it was that I have experienced, and then I have grown and understood it. Now, I'm by no means perfect. I'm not here banging on my chest saying, oh, I'm the best, I'm great, I'm this, I'm that. What I am is that I'm an individual that understands what it's like to live through trauma and then turn out what society would consider semi-normal. I don't know if I'm completely
Like, well, no, I don't know about it.
I'm here.
I wouldn't even call myself normal.
Right. I wouldn't call myself normal unless it was in
Turn
front
out
of a
to be
court of law.
weird in a court.
Right. But the fact is like, here I am. I'm operating. I'm functioning. I'm clear headed. I'm able to lead people, and those are all opportunities that being that victim could have been something I couldn't achieve because I may have stayed in my cage. I may have stayed,
100%.
oppressed.
And you wouldn't have. There's all kinds of success. I mean, I hate having to even validate it, and I'm gonna do it for you guys today. Success is not about a certain amount of money, title, fame, or something of that nature.
Right.
Success is about you living up to your highest potential.
Yes.
Your PTSD is holding you back from living up to your highest potential. And if you don't take the opportunity to feed the good wolf and to become stronger than your PTSD, then you will not have the opportunity to realize your gifts, harness your gifts, and then share your gifts at your true potential. That is success.
Right. Well, and just in closing thoughts, think of the people around you that are impacted by your own victimization.
Yeah, hurt
Whether
people hurt people.
Right, 100%, and that's a powerful statement. Hurt people, and I love that statement. I love that statement because it's so true. Because if you know that, as a kid, I was yelled at every time I did something, so now I take that out on my kids and I yell at them because every time they do something that's not perfect, it's their, they're not perfect, they're the blah blah blah. You're hurting that person that is fresh. Mind you, like I'm going to use children for example. Children are a fresh slate. They're literally a blank copy of you, that has come out. And you have a decision. We talked about this earlier. I call it brush strokes, where you're programming or you're slowly molding the picture of what your children will mature to be. And you have a decision at the end of the day. Am I going to make them part of my past and make them suffer the way I suffered and pass that on to them? Or am I going to be a better person and figure out the things that are bothering me and identify them and try to grow past them? So, closing thoughts. This is my favorite part.
Closing thoughts.
It's the Jerry Springer Show.
And of course, I have to. So I just want to empower you today if you're still listening right now, during this podcast, your mind went to a place and it was scary. And you might have just jumped right away from that thought again immediately as soon as you went there. I want to empower you to know the journey is hard and it is worth it. You have gifts to share, you have love to put on people, and you are worth the journey so you can stop hurting other people.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
No, that's huge. That's huge. And again, one last thing is hurt people. That's powerful. So again, a deeper podcast than we usually dive into, but this was a conversation that was sparked between Greg and I. Actually, this is like a week ago we started talking about this, and we're like, this is what we need to do it on. There's no question about it, and we hope that by sharing this, maybe there's some self-analyzation done, or maybe of somebody that's been through something that they've bottled inside, and maybe they need that help. At the end of the day, you may need more help than what you yourself or us or anybody else can provide. And if that's the case, like, seek the help that you need in order to make yourself better and make your life better. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I hope this finds everybody well. We'll talk again next week.